What up, sports fans? Waxon Wednesday. Jake Waxman, Tyler Level, let two guys talk sports. Let's rock and roll. Alright, my first two subjects of the day revolve around the IndyCar race at Iowa Speedway. I have two massive observations from that race, and I'm going to start with the first one, which, oh lordy. I watched the race at Iowa, and there was something at that race that one look and I was just like, this is bad for IndyCar. And I do mean this is really bad for IndyCar racing. And what I saw at Iowa was a whole lot, and I do mean a whole lot, of empty seats. Yeah, not a good look for a racing series that's trying to win over racing fans in the Midwest. And there are plenty of racing fans in the Midwest. But from what I understood, from what I came to understand, only just 6,000 tickets for both race number 1 and race number 2 of the Iowa doubleheader. Between those two races, just 6,000 tickets were sold. Oh, that's atrocious. Like that's a huge financial loss for the motorsport. Wow. And you guys could look at it. You guys look at a replay of both of those races. There were moments where they were showing what the stands look like, and I mean, Iowa Speedway. It's not a big track. It's 7/8 of a mile, so there's not a whole lot of grandstand seating. But there were so many, even for a small racetrack like Iowa. There were just so, like I would say, probably about 90% of the grandstand was empty. 85 to 90%. Okay, maybe more like 85%, but still, it was an embarrassing look. Just watching that. So going forward, IndyCar is going to have to cut their losses. They're going to have to cut some massive they're going to not only cut their losses, but they're going to have some huge financial losses first. It's going to only get worse before it gets better. So, what does IndyCar need to do? Here's what I think needs to happen. I'm not saying they shouldn't race at Iowa ever again, okay? Because I don't blame the fans for not showing up for the race. That's on IndyCar. IndyCar needs to do a way better job promoting the racing in their series. Because the on-track product in IndyCar, it is good. Very, very good. The action is awesome, especially when the cars are side by side. The action speaks for itself. The problem is IndyCar could do a whole lot better promoting the series. And like I said, that's something they need to do. But you know what? They're gonna have to start things up. Start off by getting on the right track. They gotta cut their losses. And you know what? They should still continue to go to Iowa. But you know what? Forget doing a doubleheader at Iowa next year. One race only. IndyCar should only be going to Iowa once, all right? And that's not because the fans didn't show up, but I just think that, you know what, even in the races where they've had only one race there, the track doesn't sell out, okay? Not saying that I just think it would be better for Iowa to make only one appearance on the IndyCar schedule. That way, you do that, more fans will go. That is for sure. Iowa was never in any position to host an IndyCar doubleheader. And this is why IndyCar is having trouble putting ovals on the schedule, because the ovals just don't sell out, or they just don't sell enough tickets. At Iowa, holy crap, the doubleheaders at Iowa massively underperformed. And which is why I believe if you had just one Iowa race, you could have combined the fans at both races, and it would have been a better amount than both the races separately. So, if IndyCar is going to do a doubleheader, I think you need to go back to doing it on a road course, and a road course that sells pretty well. And sadly, the only alternative that I have to this might be a doubleheader on the Indy road course, because I mean, IndyCar outside of the Indianapolis 500 is what makes IndyCar known to the rest of the racing world. Sadly, that's the truth of it. And Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So, if you're going to do a doubleheader, you're going to have to do it at Indianapolis Motor Speedway sometime in either, like, before the Indy 500 or in August for example, because they used to do 2 races on the Indy road course. Some fans were not happy about it because they needed to get, not, step away and not oversaturate, like, the fact that they are based out of Indianapolis. But if you're going to do a doubleheader, if you're IndyCar, that's your only logical option right now. Because the fans will show up at that race because it's the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. That track speaks for itself. The history there speaks for itself. I just don't see where... Otherwise, you shouldn't do a doubleheader, okay? I just don't see anywhere else on the IndyCar schedule where IndyCar can pull off a successful financial doubleheader, where they're selling plenty of tickets, all right? So, I mean, again, the huge financial loss incoming for Indy from these Iowa races. This is going to be costly, and IndyCar's going to feel it. It wouldn't surprise me if they actually leave Iowa for a few years because of this. But if they're going to continue, if IndyCar's going to continue to go to Iowa, it can only happen once a year from this point on. All right, it's just not going to work. All right, fans will show up at that track, but you don't need 2 races at Iowa to get fans to show up. And of course, you just got to do a better job, Mark. And even with having a television partner like Fox Sports doing the marketing for IndyCar, that did not help them at all with this. And maybe it hasn't helped them as much as IndyCar would have hoped. So, if you're IndyCar, I know I say this a lot, but time to cut your losses. When looking at your schedule for next year, Iowa should only be on the schedule once. That's it. You can't afford to do 2 races at Iowa again after that. And you know what? If you're going to do a doubleheader, the only logical place would be the Indianapolis road course, because that's your home base, and that's where your fans are going to be. That's where your core fan base, Indianapolis Motor Speed, and especially the Indianapolis Motor Speedway core fan base is going to be. All right. So, I don't think IndyCar should be doing doubleheaders anyways. I think they should be trying to reach out to as many markets as possible. But wow, this last weekend from a financial perspective was a complete and utter disaster for IndyCar. And all you have to do is look at the footage from the races and you can see the empty seats. Not good. So, IndyCar, when it comes to the schedule, in terms of, making the most of the financial gains, money gains, getting as much money as possible, because the sport bled a lot of money this weekend. And only 6,000 tickets sold, as I meant. IndyCar has, when it comes to close this out, IndyCar has a lot of work to do with the 2026 schedule. That's where I'm going to leave this first part of my IndyCar doubleheader subjects. And then there's the second part. Wow. I didn't have this in my bingo cards, and I'm pretty sure not a whole lot of people had this in their bingo cards, but Penske Racing winless in 2025 thus far, and we've only got 5 races to go. Who would have thought? I never would have thought that Penske would be winless at this point in the season. And you know what? They shouldn't be winless. Granted, there's a lot of bad karma, sadly, surrounding this team. That's the only way I can explain it. Ever since, some people can say, like, the penalties at Indianapolis, I think, have really taken its toll on this team. And, I mean, they fired Tim Cindric, and they're having to get used to life without him. You can make that case, certainly. So, and I think a lot of what they're going through right now stems from what happened at the Indy 500 with the, with the failed the failed pre-qualifying inspections. That seems to have really set the tone for their season. And then you got Alex Palou, who's just dominating with 7 wins. So congrats to Pato O'Ward and Alex Palou, by the way, who won both the 2 Iowa races. But I will say this. Those 2 races clearly dominated by Joseph Newgarden. And, okay, I'm not the biggest Newgarden fan, but he should have won both of those races. Or at the very least, one of those races should have been his. But holy cow, the 2025 Penske curse really struck down on Penske in the second race. Now, Joseph Newgarden clearly dominated the first race, and a pit road miscue costs him the win, and Pato O'Ward ends up winning the race. And then the second race, okay, you have McLaughlin crashing out early, and then Will Power with some problems. They both had great finishes in the first Iowa race, and then just utter just they faced other disappointment and just absolute race-killing problems, for lack of better words, in the second race. Joseph Newgarden, clearly the class of both these races. I don't even know how to explain this whole thing. What happened in the second race to Joseph Newgarden, I actually genuinely feel bad. The second race, another, he goes to pit at the wrong time. The caution comes out and it traps him on the tail end of the lead lap. And then throughout the rest of the race, he works it slowly but methodically. Joseph Newgarden works his way up back up to the lead. He retakes the lead from Alex Palou with around 30 to go, or under 30 to go. Then he goes to pit again, and I can't even make this up. Another untimely caution comes out and takes Joseph Newgarden out of the race. That is some of the worst racing luck I have ever seen. It's one thing to have one untimely caution that sets you back, but then having another that completely takes you out of the race. I mean, it's both ridiculous and unreal and just... Wow, that's all I had to say. I've never seen such bad luck. And I thought Alexander Rossi had bad luck, and same with Will Power. In one race... Man, Joseph Newgarden had some of the worst luck on the season I've ever seen. He should have won both of those races. Whether pit road miscues and untimely cautions cost him both those races. And then, of course, by the way, in the second race on the pit stop that happened right around the second untimely caution, his pit crew had another slow stop, and he was trapped behind David Malukas, and Malukas probably would have won the second race had it not been, or would have had a great shot to win the second race had that second untimely caution not come out. This is some crazy stuff. Okay, not a big Newgarden fan, but I actually genuinely felt bad for him, because that is not only some of the worst luck I've ever seen, but that is just some of the most stacked up bad luck I've ever seen. I've never seen so much bad luck happen to one driver in one race. Two untimely cautions that take you out, that take away your shot to win. That's... Wow. And of course, they did have a slow stop. His final stop was a bit slow, again. But, wow. Just even if they had executed that pit stop, they still wouldn't have worked out, because pit strategy did not work out in the two teams' favor. And Team Penske's. But... this is a weekend without a doubt that Team Penske and Joseph Newgarden, they've got some positive things to build off of. It would shock me if Team Penske does not win a race at least one race. They should win one. If they don't, okay, either A, they had some of the worst luck I've seen this year, and that they were truly cursed by the technical difficulties of Indianapolis 500 qualifying, or B, they just couldn't figure out how to put a complete weekend together all season. Crazy stuff. So I think Penske's going to win a race. Might be with Joseph Newgarden, but time's running out. They've only got 5 races left to get at least one race win this season. And we'll see if their bad luck continues, or their 2025 curse of Indy continues. Wow. Just when it comes to Iowa and just the luck that Team Penske's had this season, and let alone at Iowa, unreal. Just unreal. And finally, on to my final subject of the day. So, I just got some interesting news from the Olympic Games, the upcoming Olympic Games in 3 years' time in Los Angeles. Get this. This is an interesting change. So, most Olympics, usually we will have the aquatic events first, the swimming races first, and then the track and field events come in the second week of... So, the first week of every Summer Olympics, it's aquatic and swimming races, and then followed by the track and field events in the second week. Well, I've just received, or I've learned this online on a Facebook page, the Los Angeles the LA 2028 Facebook page. So what I've learned from them is there is going to be a switch in that. So in the games of Los Angeles, the track and field events will be in the first week, and then the aquatic events will be in the second week. So rather than aquatics first and then track and field second, it's track and field first and aquatics second in the upcoming Olympic Games in Los Angeles. So my thoughts on this is very, very interesting. This is intriguing. The thing is, there's no downside to this, as far as I can tell. Now, why they would make this change, I'm not 100% certain, but I don't think there's a downside at all to this. It's just peculiarly interesting. I wonder if the Olympics, or let alone maybe Team USA, is trying to generate some better ratings by saving, in my opinion, the best for last. I love the aquatic events, okay? I love the swimming races. That's my favorite part of the Olympics. And why not save your best for last? And you know what? If the swimming races are going to be as great as they were in, say, Paris, why not save the best part of the show for last? And the track and field events are great, too. Some of those races, like the 100 meters, so close. It's interesting that we're switching these up. Because both the aquatics and track and field, they deliver, okay? Those are the best part of the Olympics, without question. So now why for the switch? The only thing I can think of is ratings. And maybe for a better efficiency in the Olympic Games, but it's a complete mystery to me. But I don't hate it. I don't hate this change at all so far. I'm actually, if anything, more curious about it. Like what the reasons are and what it might do to help. How does this help the Olympic Games? Does it help Team USA maybe gain an advantage? Especially considering that the men's side of Team USA swimming struggled in the last Olympics. I think we only had one gold medal in the Paris Olympic Games on the men's side of all the swimming races. So maybe the switch in the timing of swimming events moved from the first week to the second week in Los Angeles could help Team USA get more prepared. One never knows. So short and sweet. I'm intrigued by this. Still thinking clearly on what the reasons might be, but I mean, it doesn't seem, so far, there's no downside. No apparent downside has occurred. I don't see anything bad about this. Just intriguing. We'll see how this works out in 3 years' time. But again, for those who have not heard, so usually we start with aquatics and then track and field, but in LA 2028, it's going to be track and field first in the first week, followed by the aquatic events in the second week. Most interesting. We'll see how this shakes up the competition when the Games of Los Angeles, or when the flame for the Games of Los Angeles is lit. On to this day in sports history. And on this day, the 16th of July, 1941, the great Joe DiMaggio goes 3 for 4, hitting in his 56th straight game. Very impressive streak. And Joe DiMaggio, absolute baseball great, no question. All right, sports fans, that's all I got for this week's Waxon Wednesday. And anything you guys want to say, leave below. Any questions you have, I'll leave the questions down below, and I'll try to answer them in next week's Waxon Wednesday. And, all right, sports fans, I hope you have a good week. And me and Tyler, we will see you for Friday Roundtable at the studio in Waterford. This is Jay Waxman from Two Guys Talk Sports, wishing you all a good Wednesday.